Welcome, friends. My name is Chico Nowicki, and I'm welcoming you to another episode of You Are Limitless. I'm always excited to have you here with me, raising our vibration and getting into alignment with who we truly are. I want to start this episode with a little exercise. There's this wonderful self-compassion quiz by Dr. Kristen Neff, professor at UT Austin and author of the Self-Compassion book, basically the pioneer in the studies of self-compassion. And it's available online. You can Google the self-compassion quiz, but I really want you guys to take a moment and take this quiz because my transformation truly pivoted when I started watching how I spoke to myself. I did not realize just how cruel my inner voice was, how critical it was, how judgmental that voice was. When I took the compassion quiz, I scored really, really low. And I wasn't surprised because the nonsense, the jargon that I would tell myself, it was just cruel. So of course I would score low. But knowing where I stood on the spectrum of self-compassion really opened my eyes, got the gears turning in my head, because up until that point of discovering self-compassion from my last therapist, shout out to you, A, I have been through a few who would mention compassion in passing if they did, but it never sunk in for me until I was referred to the book and to the quiz. So I continued banging my head up against the wall, suffering from my own inner critic, even while on a healing journey. And that just goes to show that sometimes this shit is just not pretty, but it's worth it because we really want to get down into the nitty-gritty of finding out our true power and embodying and encompassing and manifesting from a point of consciousness. So take this time and pause this, take the short quiz. It's a few questions. It's not one of those quizzes where you got to hit next and turn the page. It's all there. And I'll just go ahead and put the link in the show notes and see where you're at. So go ahead and pause this. Now then, if you scored pretty low, remember to be kind to yourself. Don't be critical of yourself because that is what got you that low score to begin with, right? The ideas of spirituality in terms of conscious, deliberate manifestation and the law of attraction are less effective when you take the self-love out of the equation at any moment in time. Taking the love out of the journey is to replace it with judgment and self-criticism, which leads to many other complications, such as those blockages that I mentioned in the first episode that stems from those negative beliefs. And it also creates other emotional, mental ailments that are just out of alignment with who we are. And it shows up in these ways. Enlightenment requires you to lighten up on yourself. Have fun with this. You spend a lot of time in your head. Make it a comfortable, loving place to be in. Self-compassion is different from self-esteem, right? We hear about having high self-esteem is important, and we notice when people have high self-esteem. I think personally that self-esteem could be a symptom of having self-compassion, but self-compassion is something that's not earned or based off of what we do or how we look. Unlike self-esteem, self-compassion allows for the unconditional love that we innately are to flourish despite the mistakes of the past, the external judgments, life situations, spiritual, religious beliefs, skin tone, you name it. When we lighten up on ourselves, we lighten up on our viewpoints, and we are better able to see more clearly different paths, avenues, decisions to make because we have expanded ourselves rather than weighing ourselves down with the judgment and self-criticism. Self-compassion is unshaken by life events. Self-compassion is the warm blanket, the hug from a friend that's not conditional. Whereas self-esteem is dependent on life events going well, or dependent on what others think about us, or dependent on what kind of car we drive, social status. In short, it's dependent on favorable conditions, right? And so it's easy to see how self-esteem can easily be depleted, could go away, because if it's dependent on life situations and life situations aren't going that great, well then now you're talking about the negative voice in the head, the negative self-talk, and then of course the beliefs and the biases that start to confirm those beliefs, and it becomes a cycle and it becomes perpetual. I used to be one of those people who was just so hard on myself because I thought that it would make me less of a procrastinator for one thing, or that being hard on myself would deter me from going back to using drugs. I had a harsh inner critic. And this is even after going back to college and changing my life to one of healing and growth. That voice was still there, still directing the show most of the time. And it would show up in ways, for example, like me constantly beating myself up over a past that I can't change. Or me isolating myself from a former partner at the time because my perspectives were being filtered through my negative limiting beliefs. Or me saying F it because the pressure to succeed was too great. I would even judge myself when I would get upset about something because I thought that being enlightened meant not getting upset, which is just a fallacy. That's not true, right? When I started this journey, it also included me getting my body healthy because, years of abuse was not going to allow for me to be healthful unless I did something to make that happen. I started hitting the gym almost every day, going on walks almost every day, eating healthy a lot of the times, transitioning from diet culture to intuitive eating. And these are all great things to do, all great habits I formed. And we can talk about habit formation in depth another time because this is a topic I love. And I have much thanks to give to Andrew Huberman of the Huberman Lab podcast, also neurobiologist at the University of Stanford. So much thanks. But point is, it was how I was doing it. When I lost weight, I was still harshly comparing myself to others. I was still comparing myself to social media, knowing that it's not real. And even if it was real, so what? Who am I to compare myself to a snippet of someone who is not me? I just had this inner voice that couldn't be corrected necessarily at the gym, right? I had to go inward and really see, where's this voice coming from? Why is it here? How is it serving me? Can I drop this? Can I still do the things I need to do without that voice? Now I hit the gym and I'm just loving myself and I smile at others, and it's incredible how I connect with people when I'm not sitting in body dysmorphia mode, constantly in my head, just judging myself. Sometimes those negative thoughts kind of seep in, but I look at those negative thoughts not from a point of relating to it, but I can see it and recognize, oh wow, once upon a time, I would have bought into that. So we're going to talk about some of the ways that the judgment shows up, some of the ways that we adopt a really harsh inner voice. And it could be very subtle. It doesn't have to necessarily be harsh, but if you are ever so slightly just putting yourself down here and there, that in turn can start to develop into a negative view on self. Even the what I call grind culture, right? Wake up 4 a.m., work, make money, repeat. All of that, whatever it is great. If it doesn't involve a harsh inner critic that'll push the body past its limits and will put the self down if the snooze button gets hit even once, that can easily turn into, you lazy piece of shit, you hit the snooze button again, and so on and so on. And so watch how you talk to yourself. People who come from backgrounds where they have experienced hardship as an adult or a child, whether it was seeing or experiencing abuse, being neglected for whatever the reason may have been, whether mom was working so much and dad was also working, or mom wasn't around or dad wasn't around, what have you. Even being in an emotionally abusive relationship where you're constantly being put down by your partner can turn into identifying with that harsh, critical voice. You start to believe what it says over time if that's what you're exposed to constantly. Even people's choices that society as a whole looks down on, such as being a drug addict, being arrested, or just being who you are, to which society tends to also look down on, such as being gay or trans, or being a person of color, or not being a person of color, etc., tends to adopt a critical inner voice, which sucks because let's say you already are experiencing a cold society who's critical of you for any reason, and or a family unit that criticizes you for not living up to your parents' standards, or because you're not like your older brother or older sister, or because you're gay, or because you didn't go to college, or because you did go to college. I mean, name it. And now you are internalizing those messages into your psyche and adopting these harsh voices as your own. Now you become the person who is no good, the person who is a criminal, the problem child, the cheater, the person who can't hold down a job, the person who can't, and the list goes on. Even though these things are not inherently true as an identity. But if we tell the same things to ourselves, we tell ourselves the same things on repeat, we begin to internalize it into our identity and essentially confirm the negative biases placed against us through the use of that harsh inner voice, that harsh inner critic. The spectrum to how the harsh inner voice develops and the severity of its negativity and limiting beliefs is broad. So I've narrowed it down to a term that sums up my point. But first, let's take a breather because it's really easy for the negative inner voice to get louder when we're in the process of getting rid of it by bringing it into the light. Remember the love. Keep it in the equation as we dissect the critic out. Remember the love. So we're going to do what is called box breathing, which will help keep us centered. This is where we breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4. And just pay attention to what's going on in the body. Feel the calm wash over your body and and just embrace that feel-good feeling. And know that you are doing yourself justice by advocating for who you are, by getting rid of these limiting beliefs. So, ready? Let's get into just a comfortable position, whether we're standing, we're in the car. You don't have to close your eyes, especially if you're driving. But you're just gonna breathe in for 4 on my count. Hold out for 4. Ready? Here we go. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Feel the calm wash over your body. Let's continue. Having an inner critic that puts you down is the same as reciting what I call negative mantras. Positive mantras are the kind things that we tell ourselves, whether it's as simple as, I like my hair today. When we tell ourselves positive things over and over again, it becomes second nature to start looking at ourselves with more compassion, more tenderness, and more love. This is how we look at our loved one. This is how we look at other people, our friends, but we don't express that same compassion that we do for other people to ourselves. Negative mantras are also a thing. Remember in grade school, when you got detention, you had to write what you would not do again 50 plus times. I will not talk out of turn again. I will not talk out of turn again. I will not talk out of turn again. As a way to embed it into your brain that you will behave accordingly, mantras can truly help encode behavior and beliefs. The inner critic serves many purposes. It's multi-purpose, right? Like a multi-purpose cleaner. It serves to protect the ego from perceived danger. It serves to protect us from a life we would not prefer. It helps with not procrastinating. It can help with doing an excellent job at work, being attentive to the kids, etc. The inner critic can serve as a nagging reinforcer for making sure you stay up to par with your standards of living, your morals, and your values. But the part to pay attention to is that nagging reinforcer. That's not a positive thing, but fair. We have to validate and be able to see the positives in some of the behaviors we don't prefer, because it all serves double or even triple plus duty. Everything has multiple perspectives that you can tap into and you can gain a positive experience from. However, what if though? Just what if, we could still maintain those standards of living we prefer or form habits to reduce procrastination tendencies or habits to eat right or just anything that you are working on that you're trying to do more of or be more of ourselves without having the negative voices in our head? What if we could do that? What if we could do all of that while remaining kind to ourselves? Kindness does not equate to weakness and laziness and letting yourself go. And that's kind of what I used to think, like when I would think about self-compassion, like, what? Oh my goodness. So you're basically saying you want me to be nice to myself and then I'm going to do what I need to do? And yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Kindness just does not equate to weakness and laziness, right? Kindness makes the present moment more whole, more weightless, and more coherent because you're not weighing yourself down with the cognitive dissonance, the noise that is the negative mantras humming in the background like a background app that you don't even know is open. You don't even realize it's open, but it's still on, processing in the background, draining your battery. Think about it. And then catch yourself when you talk to yourself in your head negatively. When we are talking about negative mantras, I am not saying that people actively say, I'm going to be a piece of today. Maybe for some, but no. Just the opposite. The negativity, it's simmering underneath and can be hard to detect because of how automatic it is. Saying something like, I will never lose weight or I am not smart on repeat over time becomes true, but not permanent, I should add, okay? What becomes true today does not have to be true for tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. But thoughts, beliefs truly manifest into reality. That's the thing about manifestation. We're always manifesting. Always. You're never not manifesting. It's really about, however, what you are choosing to manifest consciously or not. So how can we be more self-compassionate, more loving? Well, one, we can incorporate positive mantras consistently, even if it sounds silly, but it's important. It is as if you're writing code for new software or updating your operating system with new positive codes. The old rusty codes are no longer applicable. They have served its purpose, and we can show gratitude for bringing us to this point in time to where we can let them go. The way I started to encode self-kindness was that I would write in my journal a one-sentence mantra about 50 times, and it took no more than 15 minutes, I might add. It's really not that much, such as you would do in grade school. But I did it for 21 days because it takes roughly 21 days to form a habit, right? So once I would finish one mantra, I would start another mantra. For example, one of my mantras was, I fear no judgment, for I am a gift. Because I used to be so afraid of being negatively perceived that I would stop myself from sharing my knowledge and talents with other people. I literally was depriving those who needed to hear what I had to say or what I had to offer as a way to protect myself from the perceived fear of judgment day by others. But here's the thing is I realize I'm always being perceived negatively as well. And what? So what? So I use that as my mantra. I fear no judgment, for I am a gift, because it was important for me to start to release those blockages that was creating that belief of you're being perceived negatively and only negatively. That was creating that belief of you're not worthy. You are taking up space. Another mantra could be, I love and accept myself unconditionally. Find what mantra works for you and stick with it for 21 days. Say it into a voice recorder app on repeat if you don't like writing or you don't have time to write on some days. Although you can set aside or create a morning routine if you don't already have one, or carve it out into your morning routine, 15 minutes to do so, because there's something really powerful about seeing the words on the paper, seeing the words on the screen. It doesn't matter how silly you think it is, just try it. And when doing so, notice what comes up, what you tell yourself about what you're writing. Really feel and release any negativity that may come up. Do this on repeat, because negativity will surface and have fun with it. Have fun releasing it. Have fun noticing the nonsensicalness of some of these beliefs and these thoughts. Let's say a mantra is, I am worthy. I am worthy. So one thought that could come up is, wow, like, you think you're worthy? That's that negative ego, that negative inner critic, that limited belief of you really think you're worthy. What makes you worthy coming up? And we just gotta laugh at that because it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Of course you're worthy. You're worthy because you exist. Okay. That's not something that is earned, just like self-compassion. Okay. So a few more things I want to go over that I find useful is meditating. Meditating has also helped me quiet my mind. I told myself that I would not skip a day when I started meditating, and I've been true to myself on that. And it has been a game changer to the point where a lot of the times I feel like I'm just living in a meditative state, whether it is with my work, with my coaching, just anything that I'm doing, even simply grocery shopping. It just feels like I'm very centered. And meditating has helped quiet my mind, especially dealing with mental health disorders. I didn't think that I could be a person who could shut the mind off or silence the mind and really just sit there and breathe, focus on my breath, focus on the bodily sensations, and so forth. And I will talk a lot about meditating because it has been one of my favorite practices, one of the most important, if not, and especially just having dealt with the kind of life that I have dealt with, it's nice to be able to have that free resource wherever I go. And so meditating has been a game changer. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And I think that's what people think, is that if something comes up in the mind, if they get distracted and they're doing it wrong, that's not true. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Things are going to come up, and it's about detaching from that and being the watcher of the thinker, as Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now and other books, just an incredible read. If you have not read it, check it out. It's great. There's something powerful about watching the thoughts rather than identifying with the thoughts, because when you start to identify with the thoughts, and especially identifying with negative thoughts anyways, you start to get that emotional response and it shows up in the body. With meditating, you're able to be more in tune, be more aligned and centered and compassionate. So meditating is something that I highly recommend. I recommend also taking a self-compassion quiz periodically to see how much you've improved over time, because sometimes it helps to see measurable progress. And with practicing, I promise that the score will improve, because it has no choice to improve. It's what you're manifesting, which is self-compassion. You're manifesting self-compassion, which in turn would manifest that improved score. You'll notice it in just how you carry yourself. You'll notice that you will want to treat yourself better, because why wouldn't you? You will know more of who you are. It's like remembering who you were before the world told you who you shouldn't be or told you how you should be. So in the meantime, I am so happy to have this talk because I notice how people talk to themselves on a daily. And I just thought this was an important conversation to have. We have to have self-compassion because if we want to be conscious manifestors, if we want to raise our vibration, we have to have that self-love, because a lot of icky stuff are going to come up that we don't like about ourselves. There's going to be a lot of things that we have done in the past that are going to be brought up to the surface consciously, and we're going to have to deal with that. And if you're judging yourself on top of what's already happened, on top of the trauma, on top of whatever else hardship that you have dealt with, then that's like a double whammy. That's a catch-22. There is no win. You'll never win that, and you'll never feel good when you are in that judgment mode. And so self-compassion will bring us to the love, will bring us to the acceptance, will bring us to objectivity, will bring us to logic, will bring us to a point of centeredness, groundedness. And that is our point of power. That is our point of limitlessness, because we can see now multiple perspectives. We're not getting attached to any one. And particularly, we're not getting attached to perspectives that don't feel good. And so we're just practicing feeling good. We're practicing feeling good about ourselves, because when we feel good about ourselves, we in turn help others just by being ourselves. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Share this with your friends. Share this with your family. Thank you for being here on my journey. We're continuing the process. We're growing. I appreciate the support. I love the feedback that I get. I love it. I love you guys. I want you to remember always that you are loved. You are loved. There is nothing in the world that can change that, because you exist. And simply by existing, you are loved. Of course, we're going to be posting next week, next episode. I'm excited. I have so much to share with you guys. I will be sharing more of my personal story, and I'm excited for you guys to hear my journey, to hear where I came from and where we are going, where I am going. And just remember that you are limitless. There's nothing that you cannot do. You are a manifestor by default. We are constantly attracting experiences. So again, it's about, what are you attracting? What are you manifesting? How are you talking to yourself? And be careful with what you say to yourself. Watch how you speak to you. Do not disrespect yourself. Don't disrespect yourself. All right, guys, we'll catch up later. Don't forget to add me at Instagram at Madam Chico. It's in the show notes. Don't forget to take that self-compassion quiz, and let's keep on the journey. Let's keep growing together. As always, you are limitless, y'all. You are limitless, y'all. See you next time.